Hey guys, Jonze Phillips here. Welcome to my June 28th DVD update. I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I always say, if you guys enjoyed these DVD Blu-ray updates, definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave me comments below. Would love to hear what you guys think. Let me know too some of the recent films you guys have checked out. Anything coming up in the future you'd love me to do reviews on. Now the first one from Shout Factory, Scream Factory line is The Final Terror, which is a slasher film that I think it was 82, that I don't remember hearing too much about, but Daryl Hannah was in this movie, Joe Pantoliano, who was in The Goonies, Daryl Hannah, was in Kill Bill and Splash, and this was kind of done right before they all started hitting it off, and that was kind of what made the release of this movie, because this movie was really having problems getting distribution, mainly because it has very, very low body counts, because by the time this, was coming out, things like Friday the 13th were coming out, and there was a lot of people getting killed, and this only really has a couple people, and it's not a super, super gory movie. The movie also is kind of hard to explain a little bit. I mean, it's easy to explain the idea, but trying to explain exactly what these people wore is kind of hard to say. I believe that they're like forest rangers, that they were kind of in training or something, because they were sleeping out in these cabins, sleeping out in like this, like the forest place, and they want to go out on a trip out to the woods. So it's basically they all go together, and the one guy has some of these girls that he's friends with, and they end up coming out with them. So it's basically about these guys going out on out on a bus driven by Joe Pantoliano, who's kind of very annoying and yelling at them the whole time, going, "You don't want to go out there, and you don't want to be in that area. That's not a great area. Just go 30 miles down the road. It's better." Of course, they don't listen to him, so he has to drive them to the area that he doesn't want to go to. And when they go out there, it's kind of like someone is kind of stalking them, and people start going missing, and a person dies and things like that. But it's kind of an interesting, the person that's stalking them is like wearing this sort of like camouflage fur kind of like the army kind of stuff, but it's a really weird, creepy thing. But that's pretty much the essential plot of the movie. Scream Factory did a really good job, though, cleaning this up, because there's no original negative that they can find anymore of this movie. So they went and took a number of theatrical prints from collectors and then pieced the movie together with the best parts of it. And, it's a very, very dark film, but looks a lot better on Blu-ray. I can only imagine the original, like when this was on VHS, how dark this would have been, because I remember looking at things like The Funhouse, which was another really, really dark movie, and it was so hard to see anything on VHS. This one, though, looks really good, though. This has new interviews on here with the actors, a commentary with the director. The interviews are pretty good, though, talking about the making of this movie and the kind of the problems and the editing difficulties they had trying to put this movie together because of the low body count. But if you want to see a different slasher movie that I feel like probably not a lot of people have seen, I check this out, because I liked it. And the end, in my opinion, was like the last 10 minutes of the movie was my favorite stuff. The next one is Lake Placid from Scream Factory as well. And this is one too that I remember seeing this one in theaters. And this is like came out when I first started going to seeing like a lot of R-rated movies in the theaters. And like my dad, I remember like every time, like when I was seeing these ones, I always felt like I was getting away with something, because I think this was like 99. I think one of the first R-rated ones I had ever seen in theaters was Alien Resurrection. I remember that was like one of the very first, and then like I sporadically saw like Urban Legends, but I just remember this was one of those early ones that I was seeing in theaters. So I always kind of liked it because of that, just because like the memories of seeing this. This is basically about this gigantic alligator in the lake that's, pretty much, they're killing people. And it's about the, Bridget Fonda's character, who comes down from the museum to try and they find, end up finding a tooth, and pretty much no one's believing that it's an alligator, because like there's really don't have any idea how an alligator would get into this lake. So they kind of are just thinking it's a bear. They're really being kind of crazy about the whole thing. So they end up, she comes down and look at the tooth and says this is an alligator, and so she ends up wanting to kind of investigating it. So Oliver Platt, his character, comes too, and he's like all crazy about alligators and getting, studying them and getting close to them and everything. So he comes down, and then it's, Bill Pullman's character, who's the cop, trying to investigate the whole thing. To me, my favorite part of the movie is Betty White's stuff. And I remember the movie when Betty White kind of started to almost reinvent herself with kind of doing the kind of when she was kind of being a little bit ruder and a little bit dirtier with her kind of humor, and it kind of was like the start of her new type of comedy, which I really liked the direction that she went, doing that kind of stuff. I thought the movie looks really good on Blu-ray too. It has new interviews on here, with the cast members, and the original vintage featurettes and the trailers. But I would check this out. This is just a cool alligator movie that's not played as much over the top. It's more of a serious kind of tone alligator movie with some comedic elements mixed in, but it's not like some of those ones as of recently that are kind of really crazy over the top. And the next one from Grindhouse Releasing, I can't show the slipcover on it just because of the content on it, but it's the brand new Blu-ray of Cannibal Holocaust, which is one that I've been so excited about to come out. It's a movie that I really like. It's a movie, though, that a lot of people, is a very shocking movie. The main thing that people really disliked about this movie is the animal stuff in this, because there's some like animal cruelty kind of stuff, and this is kind of the movie that started the rules against animals and stuff in movies. It's made like an alligator and like a muskrat kind of thing. And that's the kind of stuff too that I don't really love that stuff either, but they have a thing on here where they had this on the old DVD as well, so you can watch the movie with that stuff edited out so it skips over it. So if you don't want to see that stuff, which I think most people don't, just push that button and you can see that, the version with that stuff cut out of the movie. This is one, though, I want to say, too, looks really good. Grindhouse Releasing did an extremely good job cleaning up this movie. Also, too, I like, in Blu-ray, too, you can kind of see the difference between the found footage aspect of the movie and the, film with the camera, the theatrical kind of stuff. Because, it goes from the theatrical to the found footage. Because this was technically pretty much the first found footage movie that inspired things like Blair Witch and all the found footage stuff. Now, this was the originator to these movies. And the movie's about a group of these, documentarians that are going to do a documentary on these tribes in South America. And, they end up going out there and they end up going missing. So it's about the expedition that's going to try and find them and, going out there in the area of cannibals to try and find them and at least find the footage and figure out what has happened to them. And, it's about the group or the team that's out there to try and find them. And then when they find the footage, what they find, which is extremely shocking stuff. And, that these people were really terrible documentarians and things that they did to the natives and all that kind of stuff. This is one to me, though, like I said, is a really well done movie. Really, really good music, really good cinematography, but it's very, very shocking, though. So just be warned with that. Now, it's got a brand new, a bunch of new features on here, new interviews with the director, a lot of interviews that are from conventions, and that's really pretty cool. And there's a bunch of hidden stuff on here, too. And I have not seen hidden features in a movie in a long time, so I like that they did that, so you can kind of look through the remote. And I remember doing that years back with, like, old releases, and it was kind of cool to have a new one that had, hidden features on it again. But it has one hidden features on here, two of them, which are stuff that's showing like the 2001 premiere of the movie in the new HD transfer. And the one guy like faints in it and showing the people in the audience like leaving. I really, really love that. But it also comes with the soundtrack as well to the movie. So that's pretty cool. And then it also comes with a poster as well. But this is one, like I said, though, I would definitely check this out for sure. Like I said, I've been a fan of this movie for years and really glad that it's on Blu-ray. And I think they're going to be putting out Cannibal Ferox on Blu-ray because they had the trailer for it and it was in HD. So that'd be definitely cool if they did that. And the next one from Sony is The Afflicted. This is one that people have asked me about a whole lot. If I've seen this one, what I thought about it. It's a found footage movie about these two guys that are doing this year-long expedition around the world, and they're going to film it every day, and then every day post, what they did that day on their website, and I think on things like YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And I like that idea because it's a really current kind of idea too, with everyone doing video blogs and things like that, and that just works for this idea. And, also when things are going wrong and you see like the comments from the friends and stuff, I can only imagine what they were thinking. But the one night, the one friend, when they're in, I think it was in Paris, I can't remember exactly which country it was in, because they're going to countries around the world, he ends up getting, meeting this woman he takes back to his hotel, and she ends up biting him. And then, the next day he starts being very strange, and weird things start happening to him. He starts getting sick, throwing up all this like blood everywhere, and then all of a sudden he starts getting better and having these crazy strength powers and the power to jump, really high, and all these things, like, and they're doing videos of it when all the friends are watching him, and just seeing putting these comments like, what's going on, and it's freaking me out. But things start getting very strange, and you're realizing that there was something the matter with that woman, and she's really infected him, and what looked like a good thing of him with getting these powers is becoming bad, and you don't know what's he's starting to turn into. And it's a very interesting movie. I thought that it was very well done. I like too having all the different settings that they went to, all the different countries, and there was some really pretty good stunt and effect stuff in this movie for a more indie movie. And for a found footage one, I thought that it worked pretty well. And like I said too, I liked the concept of making it be, like doing a travel log that you put up on YouTube and things like that. But it has on here some behind the scenes and then deleted scenes, and a scene on here too showing about how they did one of the window jump scenes in the movie. Now the next one from Paramount is Bad Grandpa .5, which is kind of the continuation to Bad Grandpa, but it's not really as much of an actual, like the original one was more of a movie. It's more of a documentary, kind of talking about things that went wrong, and showing the clips and the pieces that they weren't able to use in the original. The stuff with Catherine Keener playing his wife is back in here, and Spike Jonze is back playing his girlfriend in the movie, Bad Grandpa's girlfriend. I like that stuff with Spike Jonze, but I can see why they probably didn't use some of it in the movie, because if they really wanted the movie to kind of flow quicker, and they're kind of longer, like 5-6 minute scenes, which I think would have probably slowed down the pacing of the movie and not had it start as early, but had things, the action with the movie start. But I thought they were pretty funny though. I really thought there was some funny stuff in this, and it has a bunch of deleted scenes on here. One of the deleted scenes I really thought was funny was him with the kid on the CB radio messing with people, and it wasn't really that funny, but something about it I just thought was funny. And then it has on here about the casting, outtakes. I really like this. I like seeing, how they did this, and seeing the behind the scenes stuff, and also seeing the stuff that went really, really wrong, where they couldn't get a release, and they basically said, if you use my likeness at all, we'll sue you. So they had to muffle their voice when they were trying to meet people from Craigslist. But, if you like Bad Grandpa, this is definitely a must pick up. It's a fun follow-up, showing all the stuff that they cut. And they really did cut a lot of stuff. Like I said, the Spike Jonze stuff as the woman is some of the funniest stuff. The next one from Magnolias, this is one that I've really been looking forward to seeing. It's Lars Van Trier's new movie, and I really like Melancholia a lot. Antichrist was okay. It was a little peculiar, but it was okay, though. This one, though, I really liked. I think I liked Volume 1 a little bit more. I thought Volume 2 kind of went in some sort of weirder directions. But it's Nymphomaniac Volume 1 and 2. And, definitely make sure when you get this, you get this one, because they, you don't end up getting just the volumes by themselves. This one has both the Blu-rays of both the films. So it's on 2 different discs, if people were wondering. So it's 2 different ones. But the movie's basically about this guy ends up finding the main woman in the middle of this alleyway, all beat up, and something had happened to her, and he ends up bringing her back to his apartment, and it's pretty much her telling he says, what happened, and she's like, well, I got to tell you the whole story from the beginning. And it's about pretty much her telling her story of like sexual exploits and like discovering herself and her first sexual encounter, and that's pretty much what it is. It's her like explaining these stories, and like her when she was a teenager with her friend, like on the train, trying to see who could sleep with the most random men, and then like things start to get worse and worse. And like I said, I thought the first story, the first half of the movie was a little bit more interesting, and there was some kind of weird stuff too when they were having like her all of a sudden be like 21 and then all of a sudden look like the way the main actress is now. And it was like, I feel like the aging was kind of peculiar with some of it because Shia LaBeouf sort of stayed the same at one point and then she was older. But a lot of people were saying Lars Van Trier did that just to kind of mess with people. They didn't really mind it. It was just kind of weird, like the aging of it. And Shia LaBeouf, though, did a good job in this movie, too. I liked it, though. My favorite stuff was Kristen Slater. Kristen Slater was really good in this. It was really sad. There's the stuff with him in the hospital in this movie, which was really, really sad. And he was really good. Like, I've always been a fan of Kristen Slater, and I think this was one of his best performances in a long time, in my opinion. I really like this one. Udo Kier pops up in here, too, in this really funny scene. I like this. I would definitely check this out, but be warned, it's a very, very long movie. It's 4 hours long, so it's like it's going to be a night if you watch it. The next one, it also has two on here, some featurettes, though, about the movie. But like I said, though, I like this. The next one from Lionsgate is another one that I was really interested in seeing, and it's from the director of Prisoners. And this one, I think they filmed this movie first, and I didn't hear too much about this one. It's a Jake Gyllenhaal film, Enemy, and I can see why it probably didn't get a huge theatrical release, just because it would be really, really hard to market this movie and promote it, just because it's such a different movie. And it's basically Jake Gyllenhaal is this professor at a college, and he's talking to one of the other teachers, and he's like, oh, I have nothing to do. I'm always doing the same thing all the time. He's like, well, you should watch a movie. Go to the movies. He's like, I don't really go to the movies. Well, you should rent something. And he tells him about this movie to watch. He's watching it, and he ends up seeing somebody that looks exactly like him as like an extra in the background of this movie. And he ends up becoming totally fixated on this person and trying to find this person, figuring out where they live, and then talking to this person. And, this person is freaked out by the whole thing about him. And it's, he has his girlfriend in the movie, and then the other version of himself has a wife, and it's kind of about them meeting and this whole weird thing between them about like sort of spying on each other. And it's one of those movies too, you really have to pay attention to everything because it really does have a deep meaning to it if you really, really read into it. But it's very, very confusing. Some people at the end were like, I don't understand the end. And it is a very strange idea. You really have to think about it. I liked it, though. I thought that this was a really different movie. It had some pretty cool music as well. And Jake Gyllenhaal did a good job, too, playing both the roles. The next one from Lionsgate as well is No Vacancy. This one stars Demi Lovato's sister. And this is about a group of these friends that are going to Las Vegas on, I think it was like spring break, or like they're going on a break to Vegas. And when they're going down there, they end up breaking down in the middle of the road and end up walking to, they find this sort of gas station hotel that looks a very strange place. I think they shot, some of the movies that show The Tick, and the show, and House of a Thousand Corpses at that gas station. I think that's a freestanding set that they've shot a lot of stuff. I may be wrong, but it looks a lot like it. But they end up going to this place, and everybody's really nice, and he's like, oh, I'll tow your car, and I'll work on it for you, and you can stay here free for the night, you and all your friends, and here's food, and here's free beers, and you can kind of tell something is off with this place, and something is wrong. Why are they acting like this? Everybody is sort of real kiss asses to them, and real super nice. They end up spending the night there, and when they wake up, something is wrong, and like some of them are tied up, and it's kind of about them, like what's going on and why is this happening to them, and why are these people doing this to them, and what has caused this. It's not like the other one, Vacancy, though. It's a different like kind of concept about these terrible people and why they're doing this. And I liked it, though. I thought that it was a little bit different and a little bit more, not exactly taking all the same routes you would think with these kind of movies. I would definitely check this out. I like this one. The next one from Lionsgate as well is Dead Drop. This one was okay. This is about this guy who ends up dropping out of an airplane, and I don't know how someone survives from up there. Like, I don't know exactly how that would happen. He fall 2,500 feet or whatever it is, all the way from a plane, but somehow he ends up living. I guess he had a chute or something, but he ends up basically coming back and, living from it, and he ends up pretty much wanting to figure out and find the person that did this to him. So it's pretty much about him and his like kind of journey to try and figure out who it was who did this to him, find him, and then he wants to kill this guy. And I thought it was an interesting kind of one. It wasn't absolutely outstanding, but for these kind of movies about, trying to get revenge and then putting together the pieces and that kind of stuff, I thought, though, it was a pretty interesting one. The next one from Lionsgate as well is Blood Ties, which is a Clive Owen, Mila Kunis movie. And this was pretty good. This is one of those kind of movies about a cop and then his brother who got out of jail who's away for a number of years and has just gotten out. And he was kind of somebody who was doing all kind of criminal activity and trying to, come back and get a normal job and clean up his life. And his brother is kind of helping him along the way, giving him a place to stay, and just sort of trying to help him out, trying to keep him on the right path and make sure nothing goes wrong. But he starts to the people that were bad and get bad, influences on him start coming back around. And it's kind of about both of them and their kind of problems with each other about, not wanting to get into that area. And then him, who's the cop, not really wanting to deal with it since he's getting into this area. It's a kind of like an awkward situation for him. I like this one. I thought that Clive Owen, though, was really good in this. Mila Kunis was good in this movie. Like I said, though, I thought it was pretty well done. The next one, which is a pretty fun movie, was based on a true story, and it's from Will Go USA. It's Kid Cannabis, and it stars the kid from Project X. And it's pretty much about this kid who's like a pizza delivery guy, and, he kind of is like, always smoking pot, and, and there's people around him, like this one guy who, is kind of like a drug dealer and selling pot to all of his friends, and, he kind of thinks, oh, I can do this. So he comes up with this whole plot to go into Canada, and because he found a way to sort of sneak in the woods into Canada so he could sneak the marijuana back. So him and his friends come up with this idea to start this whole marijuana business about them all going into Canada and bringing it back through the woods. And he just goes back in his car, and then he goes and sells it. But it's kind of like things start going bad, and they all start having fights with each other. But I like the kid from Project X. Ron Perlman's in this movie as well. I like this movie. I thought that it was a pretty well done thing. You kind of know that things are not going to go really that well because messing around with all this stuff, and Ron Perlman is like in the organized crime business. They get money from him to try and buy all the original marijuana purchases and things like that. I liked it though. The next one from Millennium is Rob the Mob. And this one I didn't even realize, too, was based on a true story. And it's Michael Pitt, and it's basically him and his girlfriend. And Michael Pitt just went to jail for a number of years and just got out. And, Michael Pitt was a real drug addict, the same with his girlfriend. And she's cleaned herself up and works as a telemarketer, kind of like trying to get money out of people, trying to get people to pay their bills and things like that. And, Michael Pitt ends up with this idea because his father was in the crime business, and comes with this idea to start, even though he got out of jail, he wants to clean himself up and get back together, but he wants to, the money's not coming in right, and he really wants a lot of money. So he comes with this idea to go to where the mob kind of, like the gentlemen's clubs, or the kind of clubs that they go to where they don't bring their weapons because they're not allowed, and they kind of like play poker, and they come up with the idea to go and rob all these places. So it's kind of the story of them going from mob to mob, robbing them, but then all the mobs are starting to get pissed off at him because it's all kind of going on, that this is going on, and they don't really want to bring attention to it, and but at the same time, they're tired of this going on. And I like this. Ray Morano was in the movie too as the newspaper reporter, but I always liked Michael Pitt. But it was not a bad movie though. And the next one from E1 is The Jungle, and this one, it's in the Cool Green case. It's a found footage one, but it's one of those found footage ones that just nothing really happens in it. And I was really kind of disappointed with it. The director of this though did The Reef, which I really liked, but it's pretty much about these people going to look for this rare black panther out in the jungle, and it's pretty much just the journey of them walking out there looking for it, and then they start hearing things at night and stuff like that. It's like hearing things in a tent, and they're seeing eyes and things like that, but it's just not, to me, very creepy, and just sort of drags on and on. I hate when I really don't like a movie, but I just didn't care for this one at all. There's nothing to say about it. It was just that's all it was. The next one from Cinedigm was What Richard Did. And this was a pretty well done film. This was about this kid who was kind of always with his friends and, had a really good life and came from a lot of money. And he was just getting out of school, then getting ready to go into college. And, all of a sudden, though, one night at one of the parties that he's in, so he does something. And by doing this thing, he ends up pretty much jeopardizing everything in his future. And, things are going to really, really change for him. And it's kind of about his life and kind of dealing with what he did and trying to figure out what he's going to do about what he did. If he's going to talk about it and if he's going to try and keep it to himself. But it was a very well-acted movie. The main kid in this movie was in the Vince Vaughn movie. I can't remember the name of it, but he was in that movie. He's one of the actors in that one. But I thought this was a pretty well-done movie, like a drama. That was a really, thought effective, too. The next one from Vinegar Syndrome is The Runaway Nightmare, which is a limited edition Blu-ray release of it. And this was a pretty interesting movie. It wasn't totally what I was thinking it was going to be. But it's about these two guys that are like, I think they were worm farmers, unless I'm like thinking of something else. But they had where these guys on this farm, they end up seeing somebody burying this woman in this, this shallow grave, this body, this casket out in the desert. So they go out there and dig it up, and then these women are there going, "What are you doing?" And they end up pretty much taking them captive and kind of forcing them to join. It's pretty much them picking them up, getting them captive, and kind of forcing them to do what they're doing, which is like this really weird stuff with the organized crime and planning to try and rob somebody and get. I don't know. It's kind of like the last half of the movie took a really weird turn. In the beginning, it had some really cool synth music, and I liked the first half of this movie the best. It had some really cool music. Then by the end, it didn't have as much of the cool music and stuff. But with Vinegar Syndrome, they do such an amazing job. Like I've said in the past, with cleaning these movies up, they did a really good job cleaning this one up. I would check it out if you're interested. It's a really, really strange, different movie though. The next one is Devil's Night, and this is one that I had never seen before that Danielle Harris did. And I think it recently came out maybe a year ago. I'll put the link where you guys can get this one. And she actually did this movie before she did Rob Zombie's Halloween. So this was one of the first horror movies she did before she started doing more horror movies again. Because she did Urban Legends, but then this was the first one. Like I said, the first one before the Halloween remake. And this is about this killer in this mask. Like in the beginning of the movies, these guys end up chasing this guy out in the woods, and he ends up falling down and dying. And then a couple of years later, they end up, at this party, and then somebody's starting to kill off all their friends in the movie. I thought Danielle Harris did a good job in this movie, but like I said, be prepared. This was filmed a very long time ago, so it's like her with the way she looked exactly in Halloween like before. But I thought it was actually a pretty good slasher movie. I liked the music in this movie. It had a real 80s feel to it too, and it's called Devil's Night. I would definitely check this out though. A lot of the people in this movie too, like Sean Roberts and Steve Byers, went on to do a lot of big stuff since this one. The next one from Vertical Entertainment is Torment. This is another one that I like the masks in this movie, but Your Next was done so much better. But it's about this family, who was it in this movie? Catherine Isabel, which I should have put on the top her name, but Catherine Isabel, who just got married to this guy, and his wife died about a year or so back, and the son is kind of not really happy about the whole situation. And they end up moving out to their vacation home that they haven't been to in a long time. They get out there and they notice that there's been somebody living in this house. There's food there. Things have been moved around. And the one night they're there, their kid ends up getting kidnapped and has gone missing. And then you see these kind of characters sort of traipsing around in these masks. And I said the masks were kind of good, but the guy in the mask is like, "You are here for the other reasons. If you weren't looking for the child, then we wouldn't be doing what we're doing to you. And then you wouldn't be in this situation. So you must tell your son that you don't love him anymore." And all that kind of stuff. And then he had these clamps, and you would normally put them on like nipple clamps, but they put them like right here. I guess the guy was like, don't put him there. I don't want him there. I have a feeling that he had like that kind of discussion or something like that, because it was kind of like a missed opportunity, and they didn't even, turn on electricity to him, and it was just traipsing around. I know Catherine Isabel was good, but the main guy, some of the acting in it was kind of peculiar. Just wasn't really that great. It just was one of those kind of, I don't know. The next one from Paramount is Tosh.0, Collars plus Exposed Arms. I always like this show. I think these are from the season 2011 episodes of the show. I can't wait to see because I only really see them when they're on Blu-ray. But this one has, the intruder guy, hide your wife, hide your kids in the web redemption on one of them. But, it's basically, you haven't seen it, it's Tosh.0 talking over and playing clips from the internet, like viral videos and weird ones. There's always some, too, that I have never seen before. And then he does web redemptions where he gets people from really famous YouTube videos and has them kind of come back and have like a shot at redemptions. Like if something went really wrong in the videos, they get to come back and do a new video with him. And that I really think is pretty cool. This to me though, I like these kind of clip shows, and especially like if you like YouTube videos and like weird viral stuff, check that out. The next one from Warner Brothers, this to me is kind of hard to explain exactly, but it's based on the movie, the Black Dynamite movie. It's the Black Dynamite season 1, and the best aspect of this to me is the animation. It has really cool stylized animation, but it's the Black Dynamite character, and it's kind of like crime fighting duos and kind of like the adventures that they get in and things like that. It's a pretty fun show. Don't actually love it too much because, like I said, I kind of had a hard time getting into this one. Like, to me, with certain things, it's a little bit more hit and miss, and this one's kind of harder to get into. Like, when it comes to Adult Swim, my favorite stuff is Burl's Rule, check it out. And some of the Tim and Eric stuff, like, I like that kind of really peculiar humor. The next one from Image is Hunting the Legend, and this is a Bigfoot found footage movie. This one, though, really has like that. You could tell they were going for like the Blair Witch kind of found footage feel more than like any other one I've seen in a long time, because it was kind of like them out there trying, because the one guy believed that his dad was killed by Bigfoot, so then he ends up wanting to do this documentary with his friends, and it's kind of like them going to this area where the Bigfoot is, and then they're talking to like townsfolk, and you can tell that they were just real town folks. Like, I don't know if they like went on Craigslist, so they knocked on their door and asked if they wanted to be in this movie, but I kind of could have watched that stuff all day, them talking to these random people about Bigfoot, because like the other stuff was just sort of them like kind of out in the woods, and then you see like hear things and stuff like that. It was an okay found footage movie. Like I said though, I was more interested in the talking to regular people kind of stuff. I thought that was kind of interesting because I almost feel like some of it might have been like their real Bigfoot stories. And this one's from Image. The next two from Mill Creek, pretty cool. These ones have gotten re-releases, and it's The Partridge Family Season 2 and Larry Sanders Show Season 1 and 2. Partridge Family, to me, I always think of Brady Bunch when I think of Partridge Family. And this is kind of like the musical version of the Brady Bunch. Family that goes out in their bus and does shows and things like that. I always kind of preferred the Brady Bunch though, but this is just a fun, 70s show done at pretty much the exact same time as Brady Bunch. Went like a year or so after it continued on, and then Larry Sanders Show. So I'm glad these are finally coming out, because the later seasons were only ever available, I believe, in that box set. So hopefully they put out all the other ones. But Larry Sanders was a kind of like about Larry Sanders having this talk show, and always there was kind of issues with it, and everyone was kind of having problems, and the guests would come in. This is one of the early HBO shows, so it was kind of like one of the first things at the time too that was kind of dirtier and like the humor and more of an R-rated kind of show. I really always loved this one. This is one of those shows too. I remember when I first came out, I was like got addicted to it, and then they didn't put the other seasons out, so got totally addicted to this show. The next one's from Fox. Or The Witches of East End. This was all right. This was like this family. I was sort of getting into it a little bit. It was like this woman who's this mom, and she's been a witch for all these years, and her kids don't even know that they're witches, and they come from a witch's background, and they're always dying when they You know, she's basically, the kids are always dying because people find out they're witches, so they're getting killed. And then she becomes pregnant immediately after, and the whole cycle starts over. And she doesn't really want to tell her two kids about this that are, you know, adults now, because she's worried that it's going to happen to them again. But her sister comes back and says, Dad, things are about to happen. And, you know, is she going to tell the kids? And it was an interesting one. The next one from Fox as well as The Bridge. And this one I was kind of interested in seeing this more because Ted Levine is in this movie. Always been a fan of Ted Levine, you know, from Silence of the Lambs and Joyride and The Mangler, which needs a Blu-ray release. You know, Hell's Bell, you know. But The Bridge is basically this drama series about a dead body which is found on the American, basically it's cut in half on the American border and the Mexican border, and it's pretty much about a cop in Mexico and an American cop coming together to try and solve what happened, and they kind of have other things along the way that happen they're trying to solve. But it was an interesting one, you know, trying to put together the pieces of what happened. But anyway, though, guys, thanks again for watching, for subscribing, and I'll see you guys later.